All right, here's all the pieces for the seat backs. The seat backs are sort of the last piece before I can comfortably sit in my plane. Now there's still a lot to do around the cabin, a lot of covers to make, but I think these will really tie it together. Now that everything's fabricated, before we start clamping it together and drilling, I want to go through the pieces one by one and cover anything that we missed along the way. The seat backs are held in place by these. These are little flappy hinge pieces. They articulate to accommodate the position of the seat back depending on which of the 3 brackets we utilize at the bottom of the seat. We had to add some lightning holes and do some other modifications to it, I think, to save weight, make it a little more ergonomic, but overall came together pretty simply. There's a copious amount of hinge involved. There's hinges with eyelets on both ends. There's hinges with eyelets on neither end. And there's hinges with eyelets on just one end, either the right or the left, depending on the seat. You got to be careful here. If you don't construct these carefully, then you're going to wind up eating up a lot of hinge, and they don't give you a lot of extra. I double checked everything before cutting for once, and I'm pretty sure I've got all my hinge pieces cut correctly. Of course, we've got the side supports. These pieces were quite the pain to get together, but they're all completed, one each, right and left, for each right and left seat. I got 2 lefts, 2 rights. They're all about the correct length, so I think I'm doing pretty good. The last bit's gonna be the hardest part. I have to create almost like a lap joint where this aluminum hinge is gonna be sandwiched. And normally if this were wood or something, I think we'd probably just use a router to shave a little off. However, with aluminum, not quite sure how to do this. I'm gonna try a file, but I'm not overly optimistic, but it'll be my first go at this. If it doesn't work, we will rethink our plan. I don't know if I have the patience to do this 4 times. It wasn't just a lack of patience. That method was going to give me a dissatisfactory result. It wasn't going to be exact enough. So fast forward to this, and I won't even show you the footage, but let's just say the results from this were even worse. And even worse yet was trying a rotary tool, which really didn't get me to where I wanted to be. So fast forward to this thing. This thing reeks of loose tolerances, poor quality manufacturing, and overseas freight. In other words, it's right up my alley. There are 2 cross supports made from 063 angle aluminum. 2 are simply cut to length. There's not much more to do there. The other 2, we had to file down the radius, so it's almost more of a bent piece of aluminum than it is an extruded angle. The reason is so that it will nestle nicely into the seat backs as a top support there. Speaking of seatbacks, those are the final pieces. The seatbacks are simply 2 pieces of sheet that have been kind of corrugated, and then there's a top flange here. This is what we'll be adding everything to and drilling in a bunch of well-spaced holes to make sure it all comes together. With that, I'm going to start again clamping these pieces in place. All of the rivets have to be meticulously measured, and so I think it's going to be quite the ordeal, but I also think it's going to be fun, so I'm just going to get right to it.
Fill me out with your smile. Now the sunshine brings the light. Fill me out.
Well, this is pretty much it. Now, there's a lot of drilling so that I can get plecos in there. But that is the seat back. And I'm a little antsy to go see what it looks like in the plane. My cleco clamps are in the way, so that's preventing me from getting this actually together or mocking it up. I also don't know if I have the right or left, so I gotta check that out. And the last thing I'm noticing is I need to remove an eyelet from the middle of this bottom hinge, and I never did that. So I'm gonna do that before I get everything drilled together. That way I can sort of double check and make sure that things are fitting like they should. think I've double checked everything. I've got it all lined up, and there is a lot to line up. In fact, I even had this bottom horizontal support missing. It's now in, for a total of 4 layers of materials that I've got to now get rivets through to hold it all together. Before we get rivets, of course, some clecos. So I'm going to start drilling some holes for some clecos. All right, that's a seat, man. Or a seat back, I should say. This is one of those parts where I find myself just kind of staring. It's really cool seeing all of these pieces that I've worked on come together, and it's really cool seeing where I'm gonna sit. All right, the next item on the agenda, drilling holes. There is a ton of them, and they all have to be placed exact, so I'm going to get to measuring. Well, that was a fair amount of work, but it's all there, and it's all clecoed together, and I can't wait to get it back into the plane once again. I still have the center hinge to cut out down here, the one eyelet, but other than that, everything's just about ready for final prep, priming, and riveting. And then of course, I have one more to build. 2. Of course, I still forgot to cut the middle eyelet out from seat number 2, but that's easy enough. We'll get it when we prep to prime. Speaking of prime, I have ordered another quart of primer, not because I'm running out of white, but because I wanted to try a fresh quart now that I think I've got some of the know-how of the system down. I'd like to try a fresh batch, and I think I'm going to try that on the seats, so they're not going to get primed quite yet, meaning we got to see what's next. It's flaps. Flaps are next. I spoiled the surprise, but yeah, you know me. You're gonna have to wait until next time. In the meantime, why don't you hit the thumbs up for this video, and if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel and you will be sure not to miss that exciting episode on flaps. I want to thank everybody for joining this time around. It's been really exciting. I can't wait to have you next time on Ryan Flies.